Warning, warning, Wii U. If you're a big fan of RWBY and don't want to listen to people being rude about the show, you probably won't enjoy this podcast. Please don't make yourself suffer. You've been warned.
Star won't twinkle, squeeze to a wrinkle.
She still wasn't sure what to make of Ozpin. The youngest headmaster Beacon had ever had, he had a mischievous streak and a boyish charm that reminded Coco of her younger brother. But at the same time, Ozpin seemed oddly ancient, not just because of his silver hair, but because of how he always stood tall, how he talked like he meant much more than he was saying out loud. Professor Glinda Goodwitch, on the other hand, was the strong leader Coco aspired to be. She might have been Ozpin's second in command, but she gave the sense that she was the one in charge. She was a bit severe, utterly humorless, and her body language said she was all business. And to top it off, she was also hot, with an impeccable fashion sense. Her whole outfit worked, with that blouse, the pencil skirt, that cape, those heels, and she seemed very comfortable with who she was. The fact that Goodwitch clearly respected Ozpin somehow conferred more authority on him than his title. This is from Coco's perspective, by the way. Hello, and welcome to Anime Slushy.
It's okay to be horny in text if you're actually a woman doing it and you're gay. Then it's cool.
I can't handle the line, she seemed very comfortable with who she was. Because that's literally like the joke explanation for, like women who dressed in a super horny way and stuff made by men,
Yeah, it's exactly that excuse of like, oh, no, she's just owning her femininity, this woman that I invented, a man, who I'm clearly horny for.
Ozpin's secretary with the big circular titty window.
And the fucking riding crop.
Thank goodness she's comfortable with who she is.
He's mildly BDSM fucking secretary. I also just love like oh wow, he seemed more ancient, like he was older. Almost like he's a much older character. And he says, shut up.
This book makes a lot of references that make no sense for the characters to make. Like, Velvet is thinking about Coco when she first sees her, and she's like, she moved with cat-like agility, but she was pretty sure she wasn't hiding any cat ears under that beret. It's like, get it? It's a reference to Blake, who I have not met yet, but you, the reader, know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's obnoxious winking.
Yeah, and it also becomes funny in this book because every time they mention RWBY, it's like, oh yeah, the RWBY, look at how they're off, like they're really saving everyone in Beacon. Wow, they're so cool. Anyway, that's not who this fucking book is about. Oh, and for anyone who hasn't seen it, on the cover of the book After the Fall, it's amazing because there's this illustration of Team Coffee, but if you look in the sunglass reflection of Coco, there's the official Ein Lee art of the main characters of RWBY, featuring Sir not in this book. It's amazing. But anyways, I'm really glad to have this book as a grounding element because when it comes to the show, I feel completely unmoored from reality. I'm pretty sure this isn't a real episode, and, I'm just waiting for, when does Volume 8 actually start? Because I feel like I've been having this strange fever dream in the meantime, and I'm just waiting for the show to resume.
I felt bad with last week's episode because I thought that I was like a bit scattered in trying to discuss it, but like, it really is hard to describe how... Yeah, unmoored is a good word. Everything is just sort of unmoored that's happening.
Yeah, because something that we didn't really dig into last time is the time between episodes. We vaguely alluded to it being kind of confusing, or the time between the end of last season and the beginning of this season. But Oscar makes it clear that it's still the same night as all the events at the end of last season. So...
Yeah.
Like in a couple of hours, maybe, Ironwood has had major surgery and just happened to have a really cool robot arm lying around waiting to stick onto himself, which I find incredibly funny. And Mantle has somehow been cleared of their Grimm invasion, the one that they thought that they were going to have to evacuate, and it was like this whole thing, and that was like the entire problem, is that they couldn't save Mantle with the people they had. They just kind of did, off-screen between seasons.
Yeah, everything is just shifted around with no explanation. That's the thing. Like,
it's so surreal.
Yeah, the Grimm are suddenly not attacking anymore. All of our main characters have kind of new motivations or positions on what they should do that we don't really have much explanation for in general.
Yeah, you talked about how the fans were pointing that out somewhat, which we didn't get super into, like the way that these two teams shook out, because Ren was the one who was all like, fuck the people of Mantle, I'm embracing fascism, and Nora was all like, Antifa, like, fuck you, Ironwood, we need to protect the people on the ground. And now they've completely swapped with no real reason.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing that sort of gets me the most about like what's going on so far in this season is that, like, when you have like, characters having competing goals, that's good. That drives the story. That makes stuff happen. But like, you want to know why they feel the way they feel.
Yeah.
That's the key thing that's missing from all of this. Yang has taken up this position against RWBY. She's really cross about it. She's really angry. Same as Nora's really angry with Ren.
Yeah.
Ren is super grumpy, Nora's super grumpy, Yang's super grumpy, but like, and like on a surface level, it doesn't seem like an unreasonable position to say that RWBY's leadership so far has not been good. But like, why Yang feels specifically that the go and press a button plan is stupid and should not be done, it's not completely clear why she's switched positions. She was all on board for doing what RWBY suggested at the end of last season when they were, they're all fighting the Aesops and they...
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, they had their big, teamwork thing, and that was the last...
That's the last we saw of them. And now that there's a divide so serious that, like, Yang is really pissed off with RWBY because they can't agree on where to go next. Same with, like you said, we didn't actually notice this, that some of the fans on the Reddit pointed this out, that, like, last season, Ren was the one who really backed the Amity Arena plan, and Nora was the one whose highest priority was protecting the people of Mantle. Now, they've switched, and they're quite passionate about the positions they're in. Nora really thinks the best way to protect Mantle is the Amity Arena plan, and Ren is the one who really wants to go downstairs and get his hands dirty. Later on this episode, we have a conversation between Ozma and Oscar. And it's not necessarily that they disagree, but it's like, Ozma says, look, I'm really sorry that I left, but does not offer any explanation as to why he left. They don't go into it. They just go on to have this other conversation. It's like, at no point does anyone ever just set out why they feel the way they feel.
Yeah, I was feeling like if I made a video essay to compete with your solo video that you made, and now I'm jealous, where you were talking about how you make the avatars animated, it would be a video essay about RWBY and character motivation, and how RWBY has no character motivation ever, or is extremely arbitrary. And this whole situation with them splitting up, it's like, it's the entire problem with RWBY where you can come up with excuses. But that's what they are for what everyone is doing. And you have no way of forming expectations for what they're going to do, why they're going to do it. Like, if this happens, how will this character feel? Because it's so arbitrary and it's always just flipping around. And there's nothing you can sink your teeth into unless you're making headcanons.
Yeah. The characters' motivations flip so often that you can never expect anything of them. There's nothing to look forward to as to how, like, how's this character going to play off that character? Because they aren't characters. Their motivations will switch for the convenience of the plot, which is bad when the plot's really awful as well.
Yeah.
I'm certain the reason that Ren is now Amity Arena plan is stupid, we should go and help the people of Mantle. The only reason he's down there is because they wanted him to do the use his semblance where he masks emotion thing to help move a bunch of people at once.
Yeah, it definitely seems like they decided the groups that they wanted, and then they had to backfill why the fuck they were going in those groups.
This is me drawing a long bow. But if that was the reason why Ren's down there, what bugs me is that, like, okay, what if Ren actually still thought the Amity Arena plan was right, but he has to go down there to help them because he has that specific skill?
But then he couldn't be blindly grumpy at Nora for being on the wrong side of vague argument.
You've established something about this character last season. This is a way to get some conflict out of something you've already established. But no, we just move them around again, and now it's just, these characters are completely unmoored from any motivation, any expectation. There's no character there.
Someone joked about it being like procedurally generated RWBY, and that really is what this feels like. It feels like someone taught a bot how to write RWBY, and so it feels like, oh yeah, these are some RWBY things, but it doesn't quite all fit together in a way that makes human sense.
Yeah. It's like that, AI dungeon.
Yeah, or that Transformer bot thing.
Yeah, it'll have a crack. Yeah, like this whole season, like you can see them trying to do a theme. Because like one of the big overarching ideas they were supposed to have was like the idea of people coming together to fight this big thing, as opposed to people, not being able to come together because they disagree.
We gotta start talking about the specifics of the ep, because the specifics of that and how it plays with that are fucked, and I hate it. I hate this episode.
Yeah, obviously, we'll get into the specifics in a minute, but that is the thing they're trying to do, and they're trying to do that by having, look, all these characters are in conflict. They're at loggerheads. But they're not at loggerheads because, like, that's the way we should expect their characters to feel in this situation. They're at loggerheads because they've made them at loggerheads, so this thing works, which is so weird.
By the way, loggerheads is the Australianism for this cast, so I'm putting that on my bingo. I've learned a new one.
Is that an Australianism? I'm not sure it is.
It might be a Britishism also, but no, at least in my area of the US, we would not say that characters are at loggerheads. That's a good one. Okay, we gotta start talking about the episode.
Okay, let's start talking.
Because when you say things, I'm like, oh, like the fucking when this happens, but we gotta get into it. So open on fucking hand holding bloody pendant. It's Crow in jail. And they have been moved to jail cells that are strictly for the sake of allowing all the characters that are currently in jail to talk to each other, which is very polite of Atlas.
They're all hard light cells. It's fine. I don't care. I'll give them this. They're allowed to do this.
It's mostly funny to me because Watts is here, but he was clearly not in this kind of jail cell at the end of last season. So it's like, haha, they had to move him for the sake of the scene.
That's the funny thing. He was in like a regular jail cell. Now they've shifted him to be next to the other criminals. And then in this scene, they take him out of that cell to go somewhere else. Obviously off to Pack Penny for Ironwood, because that's what's going to happen.
So what's funny is you see the pendant and you hear Robin off screen and she's saying, "This is your fault. You realize that, don't you?" It's funny because like I had to pause because I was like, this fucking bitch. She's saying that to Crow when this situation was like so much her fault too. But twist, she's talking to Jacques. But like I don't think the twist
So
was
they gotcha.
played the way that it was supposed to be. No, because you're supposed to be like, oh, Crow's blaming himself. Isn't that so hard or whatever? But I was just like, this fucking bitch.
I think that the twist there that she was being a bitch was like, I feel like that was intentional.
I feel like it can't be intentional because they don't think that she's a bitch in the way that we do.
No, but I think they might have at least intended just to make us wonder what the hell was going on.
Maybe.
I don't know. What I love is that later on she goes to say that, you know, it wasn't Crow's fault. And obviously she's blaming everything on Jacques. I still enjoy that Robin and Crow continue to take no responsibility for what happened.
Yeah, she's like, he's not a killer, and I'm like, kinda is, though. Close enough.
Yeah. Because I was thinking about this, like, if you had to rank how responsible everyone is for Clover's death, I've actually come around to the point where I have subscribed to Tyrion is the Scorpion from The Scorpion and the Frog, and I'm fine with it. Because Tyrion is, like, one of the only characters who actually has consistent motivation and characterization. He's a fucker, and that's all he does. He's a chaos fucker. And it's like, that kind of works. So in a way, like the Joker in The Dark Knight, can you really blame him for doing that?
No, that's the thing. Like, I liked him last season. I hated him the season before when he was being all like, I like being cut by you, Emerald. I'm going to teabag this guy.
The sexual stuff's sort of gross.
Yeah, but when he's just being like wacky, I don't know, I'm just having a good time killing everybody. Then I'm like, okay, I can get on board with this.
Yeah. So, like, I feel like Clover is the most responsible for his own death, in a sense. Because he made the first stupid decision. And then Crow's the next responsible because he made a really stupid decision. And Robin's in there because she picked a fight because she was upset she wasn't on a wanted list.
Looks like you underestimate me again.
Yeah. How dare you underestimate me? Immediately gets decked and is out of the fight.
Fuck that whole situation still. But so as Robin continues to talk, she says, all I wanted was to bring people together, to give them a chance at a better life. And this is more my frustration with the idea of, and it'll play into the fauna stuff later, I just feel like they don't have a good grasp on what it actually means to be someone that fights for oppressed people, even like as a believable character writing thing. Because it's the idea that it's like she's fighting for these people who've been shit on and she's like, I don't know, I just wanted to bring people together. It's just, I don't buy that. If you're trying to convince me that she's, you know, really a champion of these people who are getting constantly shit on, I don't buy it.
Yeah, like the idea of bringing people together, and this is me drawing a bit of a bow again, because I'm making a judgment on the politics of RWBY, which is fraught, to say the least. But it's like, this is a very liberal position. The idea that like there are two sides that disagree and you want to bring them together rests on the assumption that the two sides are equally valid.
Oh God, this is gonna get so much worse with the racism scene.
Yeah, so like there's a little bit of, maybe we'll skip to that.
You want to
now.
go and talk to that? Yeah, we have to.
Yeah, we don't have to get into the whole scene, but just there's a moment later on when Yang's team are rounding up Mantle civilians and saying you have to go down to the slums in the hole under Atlas. And one of them turns up and says, I don't want to go down there with the dirty poor people. Ugh.
No, with those animals.
Yeah, and Yang goes, well, the foreigners have always been willing to help you out, even if you don't deserve it. And it's like, first of all, I'm so tired of this show throwing up cartoon racist / just shitty people so that the main characters can go, sir, in their Twitter replies.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I'm glad that Team RWBY is like no longer 100% complicit in racism, so I guess that's character development from season 1. That's good. But yeah, it's so white people writing racism, right? Which, I mean, obviously we're both also white people.
I don't want to harp on too much about that in that position because it's not my place as a fucking white person. But that sort of thing of drawing the cartoon racist person so you can say, how dare you be racist and look like a good person, which is what they keep.
And it's like, look at how good Yang is for being the good white person.
Yeah, look at Blake dunking the racist in the trash can.
And that was Weiss. Don't forget, Weiss is the good Weiss person.
Yeah, she's the ally. So this lines up with that sort of why can't we all get along, both sides come together, liberalism that I think is, if there's any consistent politics in RWBY, this is the politics it has. It's why can't we all get along, we should all come together, and does not recognize the fact that you've actually drawn this world where there is a very obvious class system. And it's quite obviously fucked that the Atlas people get to live well and the Mantle people don't. And there's no good reason for that. The Atlas people, they don't have a equally valid position to the Mantle people. But you're still acting like they should. You're still acting like, these are two sides that could just come together if they could agree, when really the reality is, no, the people of Mantle will be quite justified in saying this is fucked and we demand more of you.
But at the same time, I didn't care if the people of Mantle died already. Now I care even less because it's like, oh, good. I already didn't give a shit. And now you're like, also, they're also super racist. And I'm like, okay, fucking let them die then. Just fuck it. I don't care.
There's that too. Now you've made them the annoying middle class traitors. I think this is Robin's point of I just wanted to bring people together. It's just, this is an annoyingly liberal Twitter liberal show. Anyway, this is me drawing the bow so fucking far. I acknowledge I could be wrong about all of this, but it's just, this is the vibe you get from this show. It's so fucking strong, and I hate it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, because this is an explicit theme that the show is putting forward. So I think it's fair to critique the tone of the theme and not finding it good.
Yeah, it being unconvincing and politically shallow. It speaks very deeply to that strain of liberalism.
Also, so this episode reinforces what seemed to be hinted at last episode, which is that the Faunus and Mantle are literally ghettoized. And
Yes.
it just didn't come up last season. Blake didn't consider it worth mentioning. Marrow was like, oh, we're not here to solve systemic racism, fucking whatever. They live in the ghettos! They have literal ghettos for the Faunus!
Yeah.
Now it makes sense that Robin said citizens of Mantle and Faunus. Can they even vote? Are they fucking people?
Yeah. And this is the other thing where, you've got this apparent middle class that live in Mantle who, one of the two we heard talk were openly racist towards the Faunus. Whereas the Faunus, as the way Yang puts it, the Faunus have always been willing to welcome you in.
Oh, that's the other annoying thing, since Faunus always have to be the good minorities.
Yeah, again, I don't want to get into this too far, not our place, but in terms of the political bents, we see two types of Faunus. We see the Faunus who are the good minority, who do everything right.
And Adam.
Angelic to the people who would otherwise oppress them. And we see the White Fang. We see Adam. We see the characters that will openly say, this is fucked, we shouldn't be doing this. They're the terrorists.
And also, one of the few times I've seen them admit that they did something kind of stupid writing-wise was them talking about how in season 1, we were young 20s people, maybe we shouldn't have been writing about racism as a couple of young white men. But then in season 5, they have, the good minorities save the oppressing class from the bad minorities. And then in this season, this episode was written only by Miles Luna. So I guess the idea is we shouldn't have written about racism back then, but now we're ready to really tackle this. And I am not convinced from the work so far.
No, it's just a shallow, shitty version of this. You shouldn't be doing it because you're not. It's been several seasons now where they keep touching on this and they're not pulling it off and sort of fucking it up in pretty obvious ways.
Yeah, and it's this show isn't for literal toddlers. If you're going to tackle racism as a theme, it's not interesting if all you can say is, racism is bad, actually. Did you know?
Yeah.
Did you know it's bad to say, I don't like the minority out loud?
Yeah.
I think that's not a good thing to do.
Especially when it's used as just a way to prop up your characters and make them look good.
Yeah.
So Yang and Weiss will speak out against an absolute cartoon, the most overt bigotry you could find. Oh, well, that's good of them. Aren't they great people? It's... Ugh.
Yeah, but then at the same time, none of them find it worth even noting or really being concerned about that all the minorities live in a ghetto.
Yeah, they live in a ghetto. And, Ruby's more concerned about the Amity Arena thing than repairing the hole in Mantle's wall and making sure those people are defended.
But also she'll argue with Ironwood about how actually they need to defend Mantle, even though she doesn't, that she's very inconsistent on how much she actually cares about that.
Yeah, and also like what the priority should be. We've got to go down and defend the people of Mantle, but okay, now let's go ask for help.
So that's our little SJW rant. Just a little. It's just annoying. It's just, come on, guys.
Yeah.
That's my overarching thing. I'm just like, come on, guys.
Yeah, this is annoying and dumb, and please stop talking about racism. You don't know what you're doing.
But you know what? Speaking of things that remind me of bad racism things in RWBY, Jacques says he's a victim, and I did laugh.
It's callback.
Yeah, but it's funny because it's a callback to something that like wasn't supposed to be funny in the show originally, but I guess they've embraced the fact that everyone thought it was so fucking stupid that he is now referenced, I'm victim. And I'm like, okay.
So just to get back to recapping this thing, the whole thrust of this scene is that Jacques is a victim and Robin's angry at him and Crow's still thinking about how much he wants to kill Ironwood because Ironwood is the one who's responsible for Clover's death. No one else. No one else is responsible.
Yeah, he ends the scene with, now he's full Shadow the Hedgehog, right? He has become a Shadow the Hedgehog because he's like, we can do something. We can kill the man who put us here. Urgh.
Yeah, which is funny because they're all in jail. But the notable plot beat of this scene is that some soldiers turn up, go into Watts' cell, punch him in the face to knock him out and drag him off.
They hit him with their big gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, are we supposed to feel sorry for Watts? What is the tone of this scene?
I don't think we're meant to feel sorry for him. It's just meant to be like... Actually, I don't know what we're meant to take from that, to be honest.
Maybe it's supposed to be like, wow, these are some dark times.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know.
Oh, but something else I like is that Jacques says, like, Whitley has reached out to my legal team and I'll be getting out of here immediately. And I'm like, oh yeah, none of these people, except for maybe Watts, none of them know Salem is here. So it's like, they're gonna get out of jail and be like, wait, what the fuck?
They should know.
Why?
Watts knew because he saw it at the window. You saw that at the end of season 7. Jacques was probably arrested before it happened. Robin and Crow, you would assume, would have been able to see it on the way back from their plane.
Yeah, I guess that depends on that whole timeline.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the idea that Jacques is like, I'm going to get my legal team here. Wait, what do you mean it's the apocalypse?
I mean, that's halfway to a good bit.
No, yeah, if they played with that, that would be awesome. And also, it's like, I kind of like him in this context. I hope he is able to team up with Watts again. It's a good ship. Mustache boys.
Team mustache.
Yeah, they can kiss their mustaches together.
Oh, God. So, like, maybe I'll just stop to talk about a broader thing about the episode as well. Is it just me? Is Jacques' model also from the same era as Whitley, and that's why it looks like shit?
I don't know, because he does have the longer coat. Did he always have that?
He's got the long coat, and I feel like he's also got the busted shoulders and 2 long arms.
Yeah, they might not have edited him as much as the others. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely looks kind of poopy.
And this is something in general. I feel like so far, this season has looked pretty bad compared to last season.
Yeah.
Like, in general, the choreography of the scenes has all been pretty crap. But also, I don't know what it is, but I just feel like we're seeing the flaws in the models worse than we were last time. Like, there's a scene later on with Penny where we get, like, close up to her face and we see her in profile a couple of times. We can see her hair. And she just looks... This Penny model just looks like shit.
Yeah, Penny's hair has looked bad the whole time, but it really looks so squishy and weird.
It's more noticeable, right? Like, I don't know if it's been lit wrong or they're just picking the camera angles badly or whatever, but like the extension of her hair at the back is just completely flat on the sides. Like it just looks, yeah.
And the curls, they only sometimes have lines and it's really weird once you notice it.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, in general so far, it's looked kind of shitty.
Oh yeah, like there's been I feel like there's a lot more frames where the background characters aren't animated at all, or there's just like a weird shot that it feels like they might have done a second pass at if they had time. Like in that scene in the jail, there's one shot where Robin is like, I think when she's like, he didn't kill anybody, but her mouth is moving a lot. I feel like the characters' mouths are moving too much, and I need to go back and look at the last season and see if they were as over animated. But like the rest of her, if she moves, it's almost imperceptible. So it looks like those old cartoons where like you would put a human mouth over a still image of a cartoon, because it looks like she's completely still, but her mouth is like blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, moving way too much.
Yeah, and I feel like there's just a lot of very strange shots like that where it's like they just really need a second pass.
Or odd bits of animation. Like there's a little bit later on with Fiona where they make an attempt at having her be a bit Genki, where she does a little like excited jump.
I thought the animation was okay. I just hated that they changed her character like that to pander to fans.
I don't know. I found the jumping, it just didn't quite land for me again. I don't know. Everything's just not quite clicking this time.
Yeah, and the fact that they weren't able to work a proper fight scene into the first 2 episodes when they very easily could have. I'm like, did they get their budget cut or something? Did Warner Brothers come in and be like, this isn't worth this money?
They might be saving it for later episodes. They've done that before.
Yeah, God, what's the Volume 6, Episode 3 of this season? I fear.
There is a fight coming up.
How dare you even ennoble it in such a way by calling it that? Oh, but before we leave the jail, one last thing. Why doesn't Crow turn into a fucking crow?
Well, I guess he'd still be a crow in a box, wouldn't he?
But, like, on the way to jail, if he's so, like, we gotta kill Ironwood, the fuck it turns out bird.
Maybe this is exactly where he wants to be. He's got a plan.
Because, they just arrived at the jail when Ironwood has already had his major surgery and all that shit. So it must have been a few hours. Oh, and it's also really funny that, like, somehow they got Clover's body there and got it all prepped and stuff and whatnot in the time that it took Crow and Robin to get there, even though they came from the same place. And it's like, what the fuck? There could have been so many opportunities for him to turn into a burb.
Yeah, but, they always forget to take advantage of characters' abilities. Like, Fiona's ability is criminally unused.
Yeah. Also, word of God is that Clover is dead, and they did some kind of live commentary, and it was really hard to listen to because they were talking about how important it was to them to really, like, ennoble his death, blah, 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 and they thought that they did a really classy job, and I'm just like, haha, people were confused about whether he's dead or not. That was the main takeaway from that scene.
I also, I feel like I have to respectfully disagree with you on one point. I'm not at all bothered about the arm thing. Because if there's anything established about prosthetics in RWBY, it's that you can have them sent to you via Amazon and just attach them to your arm with no hospital.
But that's the thing. Her arm had already had presumably whatever surgery it needed to be like tied off and amputated and stuff. His arm had to be amputated. They had to, do whatever you do with nerves when, usually you cut the nerves and then you do the muscle and then you do the skin and you have to, it's major surgery. There's a lot of steps to it.
Look, it's a science fiction universe. I'm fine with them saying that's a relatively simple procedure now.
Look, for me, if it was even a day, I would accept it. It's the fact that it's like in the middle of this super crisis, maybe a couple hours, like everything's gone to shit, but he would manage to make time to have this surgery. It seems silly to me.
Look, I'm not going to say that's completely invalid, but I'm just not bothered, I guess.
Yeah. I more find it funny.
You brought it up several times. It seems to be a real sticking point for you.
Well, yeah, because it doesn't make sense. Because also last season, the timeline was already weird at the end of last season, and he had somehow gone in and gotten it in a sling and shit.
Yeah.
And so it's every time he goes off screen, he can do whatever the fuck he wants to his arm. He is some kind of crazy doctor.
That's his actual semblance. All right, we're nearly 40 minutes into this, and we have not even passed the first scene. Okay, we should get a wriggle on.
Okay, it's time to talk about the fucking news. What the fuck?
Oh.
This was the part where I was like, this isn't a real episode. This isn't happening.
There's two things about this. One, they decided to do a recap via news, which I was just so embarrassed I had to turn it off and walk away for a couple of minutes, because, that's such a lazy, hacky thing to do. But also, secondly, who's this recap for? Why do we need a recap?
Did you all notice that everyone's gonna die?
I'm not talking about in universe. I'm talking about why put this in the show, except for to maybe establish that for some reason the Grimm aren't attacking anymore. Again, doesn't explain why that's happening. Just that this is the situation. This is what's happening. But that was already clear from the last episode. We already know Salem's here. The reason it's here is because the tall one from the Huntresses. What's her name?
I want to keep calling her something different every time. It's something like Joanne or Joan or Jonas, but I refuse to remember which one it is.
Well, okay, so yeah, Judas walks up and grabs the microphone and tells everyone that they've got to head to the hole under Atlas because they'll be safe there. That's the reason that scene's there, is to get the word out. But you still kept a minute of this fucking reporter recapping the plot recapping the situation that we're already quite well aware of.
Yeah, in like a way that, like, I know he's a reporter and that's his job or whatever, but it feels way too casual. He's like, it's like the end of days. I don't know. And it's like, what? I thought you were all freezing to death and being mauled by Grimm. Why is everything so cash now?
Yeah, he's talking like he's describing like there's frost on the interstate.
Yeah.
Or like he's talking about the pass-out game and your kids could be doing it. That's the level of like severity he's sort of discussing. But what's funny as well is it's Atlas News, which is again this confusing thing with like, does Atlas refer to the nation? Does it refer to the city? If it's Atlas News, why isn't that Leishan news surface downstairs where on Mantle, which has been abandoned? Like, oh God.
Yeah, and I like that Jonah says, it's time to show your teeth, Mantle. Okay, everybody get all your shit and get in the hole.
Yeah. Yeah, like, you got to get ready to fight. And it's like, they were doing that. They were doing that last season.
Yeah, I was desperately trying to remember, like, did something happen at the end of last season where they were able to get the Grimm thing under control? But no, like, it was being overrun and that was the whole thing. And that's why Ironwood was freaking out and stuff. But then the season starts and it's just like, it's fine.
They're not attacking anymore, it's fine. There's like a couple that are wandering in.
Oh yeah, they say the Grimm are starting to make their way back into the city, but later they also say, oh, those must be some Grimm left over from last night. And it's like, what, did they get bored?
There's also a moment in Joanne's speech where she says, hammers the theme of we've all got to come together and work together, and if we can't, well, you've seen what's out there waiting for us. And it's like, wow, way to really pump everyone up.
Ooh, yeah, I don't like her. She feels too hard on the whole, like, if you have emotions, you're baggage. I'm the big tough one. Can you tell?
She's just serious Elm.
Oh, God, yeah, she is.
She's just another one of those, I don't know.
Yeah, but anyways, then we cut to the scene that was in the teaser where they get the hover bikes. And I realized, like, the one thing that I do kind of find funny in this hover bike scene is, you know, that shot where Oscar is, like, bleh on Yang's hair because he's riding behind her. And it turns out that was a storyboarder came up with that while they were storyboarding. And I'm like, of course the good part was just a random idea that a storyboarder had, of course.
Yeah. I can't remember if I've talked about that before, but I hate the designs of those hover bikes.
They're just so nothing.
I worry occasionally we're just sitting here going, I hate this and I hate that about this show and I hate this about that show. But like,
what you gonna do?
Well, yeah, that, yes. And I know this is petty, but those designs are so boring. They're just big, long rectangles. And the way they move is like really stiff. It's very level and it's very heavy and it's stuck to the ground and they're just not fun. They're not fun to look at and they're not fun in any way. So like the idea that like Yang going, oh wow, the other guys are missing out. It's like, on what?
Yeah, especially because it's cool that they're hover bikes, but if you just saw that in a garage, you wouldn't be like, holy fuck, it's a pile of metal. It's a big metal square. I'm real hype about this.
Yeah.
Oh, but something that is different in this scene from the teaser version is that when it pans up after they go off screen, you see a Grimm that's on the bridge above them. And ooh, it's mysterious. But for once, Ren's Asian senses have failed him. He cannot sense the Grimm stalking them. And so then they're getting into the other teaser scene where they're going door to door and getting people to come to the crater. And they keep doing that thing where they shoot the cameras. But as Joanne says later, nobody's getting arrested during the apocalypse. So why are they even fucking bothering?
This is another thing that we sort of talked about. The only thing Ironwood needs from anyone down in Mantle is Penny.
Yeah.
He needs those maiden powers. The idea that Team RWBY would go on a wanted list, it's like, why? If you let Team RWBY go off and do whatever they want down in Mantle, what difference does it make to you? Like,
yeah. And it's still really funny that Oscar was on the wanted list even though he shot that baby off a cliff, and it's like, did he know he wasn't killing him? Is that going to be the excuse later when he comes around to being a good guy again?
Even then, it still doesn't make sense because you want to keep him around. You want to get information out of him. There's no reason to just, like, chuck him down a hole.
Yeah. Yeah, there was literally no reason to do that, but, you know, like, if they wanted to play down how evil it was, I guess they could be like, he had a feeling he wouldn't die, or something. Which would be horseshit. But yeah, so they have that whole conversation about, like, is it safe? And Yang's telling them, yeah, it's totally safe. And then that's when the fucking racist lady comes in and Yang can prove that she's not racist and is a good white person, blah, blah, blah. And so they're like, let's do that thing where John helps Ren mask everyone's emotions, but Ren's being a big old bitch about it because that's his character now.
Oh, yeah, again, it's this thing where, like, you know, Ren's struggling to mask this many people. And John starts to give him a little pep talk, and he's like, I don't need a pep talk, I just need to concentrate. And like Jordan's a bit put off by this because he's got her FVs. But again, it's just this thing of Ren's just kind of a dick, and we still don't really know why. We still don't know why Ren's doing anything, how he feels beyond he's having big emotions.
Yeah, I assume it's just that he feels like overwhelmed by the scope of what they need to do or whatever, but it's like I get it. Like either fucking talk about it or stop just being such a random asshole.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. You have to assume because we don't know.
With Rennet, he at least he had the thing about like he was the only one thinking about how to deal with Salem. And we had the like, we weren't ready to become hunters. But that doesn't really explain like why he's specifically being such an asshole to Nora. Like it's like they've put stuff out there for why he's feeling bad, but it's not enough to justify all this horseshit.
And it's also not interesting unless we kind of understand it. He's just being an asshole. Okay, well, he's upset. Like that's all we get. Is he's upset.
Yeah. So I know it's hard to create new models and stuff, but it really does bother me that, again, it's supposed to be so cold that they can't survive up here. And, they survived a whole night up here. These people aren't even wearing gloves. Like the random citizens, they're in like light jackets. Like even Joanna's like, bring something warm, so you can survive in the fucking freezing cold. And they're just they got like a windbreaker on. Do you want me to believe it's super fucking cold or not?
Yeah. Anyway, so at first I thought it was kind of funny because like you see like maybe 20 people in this group, 20, 30, 40 maybe. I was like, is this it? Is this all a mantle? But no, to be fair, when they get to the crater, we can see this is just one of several groups that are being evacuated.
Wait, we gotta talk about the Oz conversation.
Oh, yeah, the Oz.
Because while they're on the speeder bikes, Oz and Oscar have a funny conversation. Or I thought the part was funny where he's like, I'm sorry I left you, Oscar. I promise I was always there for you. And Oscar is like, I'm mad you came back. And I'm like, fuck yeah, Oscar, drag this guy. Just drag him, because fuck him. And he was like, I was my own person, and it was like I was part of the team, and I don't want to join souls with you. And I was like, Oscar, my baby boy.
I can't get over how he says, I'm sorry I left, but I was always with you. And it's like, I want to know why you left, and no, you weren't.
He was throwing a big old baby fit. And also, so we're back again to Ozpin is like, you're gaining my magic, you're gaining my memories, soon our souls will become one. And Oscar's like, I don't want that. And Ozpin's like, I don't want it either. And it's like, I'm sure glad there was that scene in 6-3 where he said that he let people live their own lives until he just kind of stood back by the side. I'm glad he said that. I'm glad he said that, and now Oscar's taking on all of his thoughts and feelings, and they're becoming one.
The law will shift depending on how much they want to make a character suffer or feel bad at every given moment. That's Oscar's thing in particular. Like, depending on what they want to do with Oscar in a scene, is he going to be erased or not will shift.
Yeah, poor fucking Oscar. God damn it.
This is also the bit where Ozpin laments, why is it so hard to make everyone get along? That's what we hear after we hear the racist person having a grumble about, like a racist grumble.
Yeah. And Oz is like, we need to find a way to work together. Not just the two of us, all of us. And it pans up to Atlas. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, does that include Ironwood?
It might. There's a reasonable chance that like part of this is going to be bringing Ironwood back into the fold and he'll be forgiven or...
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. They're going to have to stop Crow from killing him. And I'm going to be like, fuck off.
We don't know that's going to happen, but if it does, think about the fact that the fascist will get a redemption story. The Fauna's headmaster just was a coward and got killed.
Jesus. Anyways, it's time for Team RWBY. Because now May is here, the trans girl who can turn invisible.
Yeah.
She seems all right. She's just kind of like confident as a character trait, I guess.
Yeah, like she's whatever. She's here. She has one character trait. Okay, cool. I don't know.
Yeah, but I do like, so it opens with them talking and she's like, oh, I'm so happy to help you kids. Like once Robin learned about the tower, she just could not stop talking about it. It was the most important thing to her. And it just makes me think about how Robin fucking embraced fascism because she understood that Ironwood was actually doing his best for them and all that horseshit. And it makes me mad all over again.
And I'm also like, hang on, how much time passed in between when she found out about the tower and when she had to go to that dinner party? Wasn't it like only like a day or two?
Who knows?
Did she get home and just like scream at them about the tower for like...
Yeah, she was just immediately on side, more or less. I still don't like Ironwood, but god damn it, do I love his tower.
Yeah, because she's still pissed with Ironwood when she at the start of that dinner party.
Yeah.
But she couldn't get over the fucking tower. Oh, even though at that point she wouldn't have known what the tower was for.
No, I think they did vaguely tell her. They said it was like to do that, and then she's like, well, then why did he keep it a secret? And they're like, oh, I can't get into that yet.
They told her it was to get communications going again. They didn't tell her about Salem, did they?
No, but like, this is something that none of the characters really talk about, except maybe until this moment, I guess. But like, I could have bought what RWBY was doing last season if at any point they established that they knew the tower wasn't useful for Salem, but they thought it was an important enough goal in itself to have worldwide communication again. Because that, like, logistically, that should be super fucking important. But everybody only really cares about it usually in the context of telling everyone about Salem, because that's so important for no reason.
It is a little bit nuts to me, the idea that... So they had trains running from city to city, but they had no way to talk to each other. Like, that's just like, that's impossible. Like,
Oh, that's the other thing about After the Fall. So right now in universe, if you take After the Fall as canon, which, like story by Carrie Shawcross and Miles Luna, they consulted on all of it. Beacon has been rebuilt and Glinda is there and she's doing paperwork. She's like filling out transfer forms and shit. So
that's right.
They haven't fixed the tower yet, but she's busy fucking doing fucking paperwork for the school.
Yeah, because Beacon was the
tower's right there.
Yeah, and it was still filled with Grimm last time we saw it, wasn't it?
No, yeah, that's the thing. There's a giant Grimm dragon that's supposed to be constantly attracting Grimm, and fucking Glinda is just doing paperwork.
Because what's important is proper transfer procedures to other schools.
Yes, it's amazing. So yeah, really that should already be repaired, goddammit, if this was canon, which that's completely absurd. I hope they canonize that in the show.
So we get the thrust of this scene is they're breaking into an SCD facility.
It's SDC.
SDC facility.
Please respect it. It's Snowshoe Shipping, a subsidiary of SDC. And so the idea is that because the drones here work for SDC, they aren't under Ironwood's direct control and they won't immediately attack them or whatever.
Yeah, and so they have, what are they called? Those pipes.
They have schloopy pipes.
Pneumatic pipes.
Pneumatic tubes.
Yeah, pneumatic tubes that carry dust in packages up to Atlas. Now, again, I know people aren't supposed to go in these tubes, but like, this is apparently an unmonitored way to get to Atlas that's still working, despite, Ironwood being incredibly paranoid about people breaking into Atlas last season. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and also, I love that they walk by the different screens because they're looking for one that apparently goes directly to the military base, and they walk by the one that goes to the Atlas school, and it's like, why do you not think that's an easier target? Why do you think Ironwood is just sitting there in his fucking office at the school still? You're specifically going to the place with all of the boss characters that you have to fight.
Yeah. I don't get why the academy wouldn't be the easier one. Like, apparently they escaped from that place relatively easily. They only had to fight 4 people.
Yeah. And all those people are in the military base now, or I think that's where that is.
Yeah, well, who knows? It's hard to tell. I do like as well, like, there's 4 tubes, and each one has a panel next to it, and on the panel on the screen, all it says is the place where the tube goes. And somehow it takes them like a minute and a half to find the one that says military base.
It's true.
And when Nora finds it, she says, found it. And like, she's all proud. It's like, you should not be proud that it took you that long.
But before that, it's time for some motherfucking checkmate. Yang, she's all pissed at Blake. Blake doesn't give a fuck about Yang. She's having a great time. Weiss is like, our family owns everything, blah, blah, blah. And Blake's like, are there any buildings in Atlas that your family doesn't own? And then she does a DreamWorks smile, which is very strange for her. And that's a very strange position for her to take. But then Weiss is like, that isn't relevant. And then Blake is like, tee-hee-hee-hee, laugh. So, she's fucking dropping Yang. It's time for that motherfucking checkmate.
So the painful part of this scene is that there's a conversation between Penny and RWBY, where Penny is upset because friends are fighting.
I wrote down this line.
I was thinking about how in like Volume 7, in that episode where Penny and RWBY have that discussion about Penny sort of saying, I think I'd like to have some friends, but I'm very busy and I don't, so I don't have time to pursue the things I want to do. And Ironwood says I don't have time for friends. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I enjoyed that scene because that felt like a half decent, this is a robot who's not used to doing human shit sort of thing. And RWBY sort of being like quietly heartbroken about the way Penny felt. Whereas
Yeah.
in this scene, Penny just comes off like a lot of these characters do sometimes, like just a baby. Like just an idiot baby. Not even a baby, a dumb baby.
I also realized that her voice acting actually isn't very good when she's supposed to be expressing different emotions. I didn't really address it from the last episode, but in the part where she brings up bringing the relic to Salem, she says, or I could take the relic to Salem. And it's like, no one was talking about the relic or Salem before she mentioned that. So it was like, why did you... Obviously, part of that's a voice direction, but it was just like a very strange line and a very strange way to deliver it. But here she's specifically saying a thing that's like in a way to trick Ruby into thinking she means something other than what she does. Because she says, I do not like it when friends fight. And then Ruby's like, oh, me and Yang, we have our trouble. But and she's like, no, Winter and the General, they were our friends. But then the Aesop's attacked you. And the General, he said people were going to die because of me. And it's like, you thought the General was your friend? Again, he's the guy who said you don't have time for friends, and also he's the guy who was like, Penny is completely under my control.
Like, part of me is like, well, Penny doesn't know what a friend is. It's sad, but that's the closest thing she has is Winter, and to a much, much, much lesser extent, Ironwood.
I could buy that if Ironwood hadn't apparently explicitly said she doesn't have time for friends and doesn't have friends.
and again, it's just this thing of like, the way that she's looking at what's happening and going, oh no, they're fighting, not, oh no, he's a fascist.
Yeah, I do not like it when my good friends, the fascist dictator and his lackey, are fighting. This is not optimal friendship.
Yeah, like that's the thing that's bothering her the most, is that everyone's not being cuddly, ooh-woo, 3 cheers for friendship, not a lot of people might die. She had another line that I wasn't sure how to read it, where she was like, I was the protector of Mantle, and that's all I wanted to be, but now I'm much more, and I don't want to be that, by which she means the Winter Maiden. And it's like, well, but hang on, if your motivation was protecting Mantle, why are you on the other team? Why aren't you off protecting... Oh, fuck. That was her big thing. She loved being the protector of Mantle, and now she's not doing that. Fuck.
Well, I guess at least like they had an excuse for why she had to be on this team for logistical reasons, because she said that she could do the hacking instead of Pietro or whatever the fuck. Oh, but there's also, I forget what the line is, but there's a couple lines in this scene. I almost want to include them in the podcast. Ruby suddenly speaks with a human voice. And like when I was taking notes and rewatching the episode, I had actually like looked away for a second and I was extremely taken out of it. I was like, who the fuck is talking? Oh, it's RWBY. What the fuck? and then she goes immediately back to speaking in her RWBY voice. But it's amazing and like it sounds great. And I wish she would just fucking talk in that voice, in her human voice. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
And RWBY's older now. She can fucking just let her talk in the human voice.
Yeah. Anyway, the one good gag in this episode.
Oh my god. Yes. This is like, I felt joy, and like I felt joy specifically in the way that the show wanted me to feel joy, and it was incredibly novel. So whoever animated this, mwah, chef kiss, you did a perfect job. Because Weiss she sits on like the entry point for the tube, and she's like, so all you need to do is and then hit the button, and Nora hits the button, and Weiss gets schlooped up, and the way that it's animated is perfect, and it's beautiful, and eat shit, Weiss, bye.
So it's funny. What struck me though in particular was that it gave me PTSD.
Oh yeah, you told me you had a tube story.
Yeah, she goes in ass first, right?
Oh yeah, her spine's broken as fuck.
Yeah. Like in order to fit in the tube, she is completely bent, like via her ass.
Yeah, she's dead.
When I was in primary school, I found a book of sketches, like theater sketches, and I put on a show for the school with a bunch of other people. And I gave myself a very small part in which at one point I was meant to be picked up and put into a bin and taken off stage. And the first night we did it, we hadn't rehearsed it all, and I never tried being put in the bin. So when I was put in the bin, I was put in ass first. And the pain was fucking unimaginable because I just was not that flexible. I was bent way too far, and I was stuck there for like a minute. And then I was meant to come back on stage for like, the bow at the end and shit. I couldn't do it because I was just in so much fucking pain.
Well, if only you had aura.
And Weiss has got to travel all the way up to fucking Alice in a pneumatic tube like that.
It's like a 1 hour trip.
Yeah, she's ruined.
You had your fun now, but when they get up top and she's just this crumpled dead meat. Oh, Also, another thing that I will compliment. So apparently they made Blake's ear model slightly better along with her hair. And I was so amazed when they cut to all them reacting to Weiss getting schlooped up. Her ears have turned in the way that sad cat ears actually do. When, like, normally before, you know, like they would fold over like fucking dog ears and look like shit. And I was like, oh my God, someone looked at a cat. Thank fucking goodness. It's beautiful. It's so good.
Her and Weiss both got hair upgrades over the break, which they both look better.
Yeah, I hadn't even noticed before that Weiss's braid was upside down before. Like, in terms of the way that, like, a braid would be, you know, woven. It was fucking upside down, and which made it look even more like bread. So that was great.
But now it's turns the right way, and it's also gotten smaller, so it's not as, like, overpoweringly, stupidly big.
Yeah, it does look better.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the end of that scene. That was the good bit.
Fiona time. Fiona time. Everybody loves Fiona. Fiona's here. Crowd claps, clap, 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 clap. It's the sheep girl. Everybody fucking loves her.
I hear people love Neo. People loved Penny. I'm not against them, you know, sort of spending more time with the character people do like. And I don't think Fiona's unlikable. I do think they were maybe leaning into the Genki a bit much.
Well, that's the thing. Last season, I got the feeling that she was more like shy.
Yeah.
So it's weird for her to see her this season be like, haha, I'm a jumpy cute baby, hee hee. You can buy the shirt that says ba ba in Japanese. I'm a happy animal person.
I don't know. Like, yeah, it's a bit off, I guess. She keeps doing this thing with her semblance to hide stuff in void space where she has a map she keeps looking at.
Yeah, she's got her hammer space power.
Yeah, it's like, I don't actually mind that as a thing of like, saves you carrying around the map all the time and you do want to look at it a lot. If you had that ability, you probably would use it in fairly mundane ways sometimes.
Yeah, and assuming she's going to do something more important with it later, it's actually a nice reminder of what her power is.
Yeah, that's not a bad bit.
Yeah.
So I actually thought this was good because, like, for once, it isn't Team RWBY doing everything. There actually is a large coordinated effort to get everyone out of Mantle. Like, that's what the Huntresses are doing. They've roped in, like, the Mantle police, who have apparently also been abandoned here.
Yeah. When she said the Mantle police, I was like, the what?
Yeah, they got their own police force.
But all we've ever seen is, like, the fucking military police people. So it's like there was this other... Where they been? What?
I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense that they wouldn't fight Grimm. Like, you got to have... Well, as much as you ever have to have cops.
But we also saw people patrolling around the streets arresting people for congregating and stuff, and it was those same fucking Atlas soldiers.
Well, yeah, but maybe that's because it was like... That's because it was martial law, even though they thought it wasn't. It was the soldiers doing that, not the cops. I don't know. It's a throwaway line. I didn't mind it.
Yeah, it's just funny because, you know, like, it's so much like we've been abandoned by the government, but we still have our local government, who's apparently still doing so.
Which is apparently taking orders from the fucking Happy Huntresses.
Yeah.
It's fine. I don't care.
Yeah, this is like me doing that question marks appearing gif.
Yeah, it's like, as a throwaway bit of world building to suggest there's a bigger thing happening, that happens so rarely in RWBY, and I was kind of novel. To suggest there are wider events taking place that our team are not at the fucking center of.
Yeah, there are actually other hunters that exist in this giant city.
There's actually other people doing things larger than them. There's a moment where Jojo is fucking impressed that they cleared out that area so quickly. We're like, we thought you'd really struggle without your other team members.
Yeah, and they're like, her.
Yeah, that's a chance for Yang and Ren to go, we're fighting, conflict. And then they're asked to go and do something else. There's some Grimm attacking somewhere, and they're like, hey, we can do that. We can go fight things because we're angry.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Fight Grimm. So this is the action sequence for this episode, and it sucks.
Yeah, I don't know. The bit where they dropped the bridge on that one Grimm, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, that's the thing. Oscar throws a grenade, and I was like, wow, that's way more fucking useful than John's grenade. I think it's a gravity dust grenade because it, like, makes the Grimm fly up into the bridge in a very, like, gravity-ish way. So that was okay.
It gets thrown into a bridge and injured, and then one of the other guys, I think Yang, comes through on her bike and, like...
No, it's John. He does, like, a jousting thing, and we're all like, yay, John. But then he does a little trippy, because it's like, you're still such a goof.
Yeah, it's his thing. It's fine. I don't know. It was fine. The bit I actually liked in this was that they do that, and they ring in and say, hey, we did it. And they're like, okay, we need to go do something else. Right at the other end of the town, so you got to rush over and do that now. And there was a moment where Yang was like, ugh. And I actually did like, you got a sense of the idea of they're exhausted and the work is going to be endless. And I thought that was actually kind of nice as an idea. Like, Because it made it feel like there was this big serious thing happening and they're just sort of caught up in it.
Yeah, and they should be tired as fuck because, again, like, everything from the finale of last season was like a few hours ago.
Yeah. What I actually thought was like, this is what we should have been seeing. Because remember how the end of part of the justification for why they couldn't hold off another attack when Salem was coming was that everyone was exhausted? This is the sort of stuff we should have seen before they said everyone was exhausted. People being exhausted. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but they're still just barely. They're still just like, ugh, I'm a little tired.
Yeah. It's still, that felt like an earned character bit, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I felt like it got across the idea that this is stressful.
But then Oscar is like, all the negativity is attracting the stragglers. And it's like, well, were they not feeling negative when they were freezing to death in their houses? What are you talking about?
And how are there only stragglers when before there was an entire army of Grimm and elephants and the other guys?
But then they see some Grimm and the Grimm run away. And at that moment, I was actually like, oh, that's actually kind of interesting. But it turns out that it was just because there's a bigger Grimm, and that's just a thing you do is with the bigger, badder thing scares the other things because it's a trope.
Yeah. I actually didn't know how to read it at first because, again, I felt like the animation here wasn't very good. The Grimm barely pause. They're running at them and then suddenly they just like turn 90 degrees and run the other way.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a new Grimm here.
It's a big boy.
This Grimm turns up and just, in a way that was, I think, maybe unintentionally funny, just absolutely beats the shit out of Oscar.
I thought it was well done. I mean, except for like...
I thought it was kind of funny.
The big thing for this entire scene that I think even the fans are kind of annoyed with is that this scene has like a full minute of Yang, Ren, and John standing around doing absolutely nothing while Oscar gets the shit kicked out of him and gets taken away. And it's like really, really bad.
Yeah, that's the major flaw with this scene is the way it's timed out. There's an excuse given where like, so what happens is this Grimm attacks Oscar, beats the ever-loving crap out of him, takes his aura down, knocks him out. And then when the other guys go to attack the Grimm, this thing is holding Oscar's limp, defenseless body up like a shield. And then it gets away. Now, on paper, that sounds okay. The trouble is, the section where Oscar is having the shit beaten out of him takes too long before the other guys react. And then there's a section where the Grimm has to put Oscar down to go through a minute-long transformation sequence. And again, it's a minute, and they just stand there and do nothing.
Yeah, it's like they gave the excuse, but then the Grimm put Oscar down. And they're just standing there staring at him. Like, you can see them in the shot just standing there staring at him.
Yeah, and they don't start moving until the Grimm flies away because it grows a pair of wings. And that's the really egregious part, is where it grows wings, and it's only able to focus on doing that. And they just stand there and don't do anything. Again, there's like a bit of an excuse where you see them try to attack it and their bullets don't seem to do anything. But the idea that they would just like, after that one attack, go, oh. Like,
yeah, they barely care.
Or that they're like so horrified by this dude. Because like when he's holding Oscar up as a shield, Jordan's like, Grimm aren't that smart. So is the idea meant to be that they're just so mind blown by what's happened here?
Yeah, the simple tactics of using like a human shield is freaking the fuck out of them. They did that really like horror zoom into John's face. But I do want to go back to, I do maintain, I think that when the Grimm is kicking the shit out of Oscar, it's one time when their like super close-up shots actually like really work. And I'm so, like, I can kind of see why you found it funny. But to me, like he reacts like a child and he's just getting the shit beat out of him. And I'm like, oh, my baby boy.
No, it's super violent. I think that's why I found it kind of funny, was that it's such a violent tone shift. Because, like, all of the Grimm fighting is just this sort of, stupid dancing around, like, not, sort of, sometimes it's cool, sometimes it's not. Whereas this is a wild animal tearing a child to pieces. And it comes out of nowhere. And I feel like it's one of those things where that can shock you, or your reaction can be, this is really funny.
Yeah, because the tone shift is just so unexpected.
Yeah, and that's a reaction people have when they watch horror films sometimes, is that like something kind of freaks you out so much that you end up just laughing at it. And that's kind of where I was. It was just so... He just gets pummeled so hard and he's so terrified and it's so violent.
My baby boy, and they don't help him at all. And I'm just like... You know what? I'm glad this Grimm took him away from these fuckers. This is the second time in a few hours that they've lost this boy. They can't take care of him. They barely try to save him. We know this Grimm's just gonna take him over to Mama Salem. He's gonna be fine. This is fucking Child Protective Services Grimm, and I stand.
That's where he's from. The Grimm's from Child Protective Service.
Yeah. Apparently it's called The Hound in the credits, which I think is a nice, simple name. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, it's funny because, like, outside of that animation, I don't find anything about this situation concerning because I know he's just going to Salem and they're probably going to have some fucking The Force Awakens psychic fight or whatever. But I'm not scared of what Salem's going to do to him. I'm more scared of what fucking Ozpin is going to do to him.
Yeah. Ozpin's definitely the creepier like character in this situation.
Yeah. So it's like, oh no, they lost him. And I'm like, good.
It just bugs me so much how unintentionally they make these teams look incompetent all the time. And like it's unusual for Yang to be on the side of this because often it's like, yeah, Team fucking Orange. In this time, you could say that Team Orgy really fucked it. But yeah, they're just incompetent. They keep being incompetent. And we're meant to think, like, because there's a thing where they were asked to go and help out someone, and then like they get a call saying what's going on, and they say, well, we can't go help them. We got an emergency, and they're like, what sort of emergency? And they say, you wouldn't believe us if we told you. And it's like,
shut the fuck up.
This seems pretty believable. A Grimm stole one of your people and he's flying away. But there's flying Grimm. There's been flying Grimm all the time. Why is flying Grimm?
No, that's not it. It's because it's smart and because it spoke. It said, no.
Did it?
Yeah, see, it's actually kind of hard to tell. I didn't notice it the first time until in the watch party I had to go back and re-listen to it because...
Oh, I missed that, yeah.
Ren says, give it back. And the Grimm goes, no.
That's also, again, that Ren says give him back as opposed to shooting it.
Look, he tried once and it didn't work. And you know what they say about people who try the same thing over and over. That's the definition of insanity if you have a bad definition of insanity. So he's not going to do it again. But one of the reasons that the fucking you wouldn't believe me if I told you thing pisses the fuck out of me, even if it's like this unusually smart talking Grimm, I am so sick of the way that the characters have never really reckoned with anything they saw in 6-3. Which, for people who are less familiar, it was like when they saw the entire Salem backstory. But like, all they really took away from that is that Salem is immortal and Oz doesn't have a plan. But they saw that gods are real. Like, they know that Salem is a magical Grimm lady who's immortal with literal magical powers. And they're like, a talking Grimm, that's too much.
It's the same as when they saw someone turn into a bird. And was so fucking freaked out by that.
But at least then, like, the stupid excuse was, oh, magic's not real. But now they know that magic and gods and everything are real.
It's also like, when has there been strong establishment of what Grimm are and aren't capable of in terms of thought? Because, like, the fucking Nuzlocke, whatever it was called, that was pretty smart.
Oh yeah, the Knucklehead? Yeah, I thought that was pretty intelligent. I thought, and in Volume 2 they talk about how Grimm become more intelligent over time and learn from how humans are. And yeah, I never got the impression that it's like, oh, it's using a human shield. Whoa.
And also, you're like you said, you're dealing with Salem, who controls things and it's...
She's right here!
The idea is that we have a standard for how things are meant to be in this world and what's possible and what isn't. That's what freaks us out about this situation is that, oh, this is completely unlike anything we could have expected. It's like, we have no expectations. Anything can fucking happen. It has and does.
Yeah.
There's no rules in this stupid world. Like,
Yeah, and even if it's like, well, Fiona and the others wouldn't believe them, but like everybody knows about Salem.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can expect the unexpected, Sakura.
Also, as someone in the chat pointed out, this is the situation where the Wicked Witch is sending one of her minions down to grab someone and take them away.
Oh.
And we saw her make monkeys with wings. And they still haven't shown up and probably never will. Because like a lot of things they do at the end of seasons, they realize that's dumb and we shouldn't follow up on it.
I can't believe they've continued to deny me my monkeys. I also like that everyone insists on calling them monkeys along with me, even though I know it's like gorillas. Or technically it's, I forget what they fucking called the Gorilla Grimm. But it's just so much more fun to call them monkeys. Honestly, it would have looked less stupid if they were monkeys. It was way funnier because they were gorillas with wings. Yeah. But yeah, god damn it. Especially if they brought in the gorilla with wings and then John and crew were like, what the fuck? A gorilla with wings? That's impossible! That would have been amazing. But oh yeah, and apparently it's already a fan theory that the Grim is Summer, which I find amusing because it's just like that just seems like something that would happen. It's a talking Grim. I bet that should be Summer.
Yeah, why not? Sure. That's the sort of stupid shit they do.
Yeah. Oh, and I will say, like, there's part where it transforms in order to, like, become more of a werewolf type shape from, like, being a four-legged thing. And the way that it does it, like, seems like it's, like, breaking its bones and gooping around. And I do think that's pretty well executed, especially compared to, like, they tried to do a similar thing with the Dark Bro in the 6-3, and it looked stupid as fuck. But this one feels more like how they were trying to make that feel.
Yeah, it's a good bit of animation, but again, it's that thing with, like, you got a character with guns standing here doing nothing.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, that's the entire problem with this scene.
Yeah. Now, you've marked off 2 boxes on your penny bingo.
Yeah, here, wait, let me open up my penny bingo so we can keep track of how I'm doing.
So, in case you forgot from last time, Cube has made a bingo card for this season of RWBY that is just penny stuff.
Yeah, so I feel like I can actually check off what I didn't yet. Weird robot logic she should know better than, because I feel like thinking that Ironwood counts as a friend counts for that.
Yeah. And also, like, doing the, what is friend sort of thing over, like, everyone's dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I also checked off, thinks she doesn't deserve maiden powers.
Yep.
And vaguely Beatty moment with RWBY, because they were, like, very, like, they like, keep hugging and stuff, and I don't know, it feels Beatty enough to me.
Yeah, this is something else I was thinking about was, like, so if Penny gets hacked, and if they decide to go full dark like they did in the Fall of Beacon, and RWBY has to be the one to kill Penny, I don't think that these two have been as gay as Clover and Crow were, but they will be on track for at least one maybe gay death every season at this point.
And that'll also be great because vaguely Beatty moment and think she doesn't deserve maiden powers are on the same column in my bingo. And in that same column is gets hacked and gets killed again. So I would be really on track.
Someone on Twitter pointed this out, and I tend to agree. There is a decent chance of a blackout on your bingo card.
Yeah, the other thing in that row is unsubtle invocation of no strings on me, which I bet we're going to get. I'm feeling confident. I'm feeling bullish.
That all depends on if she gets hacked, but then the hacking is broken by, say, Pietro sacrificing what's left of his life.
Yeah.
Because he's already apparently cut off a whole bunch of chunks of his soul, which is why he coughs. I don't know how that works, but
yeah.
If that happens, then I would expect some no strings on me.
Or even just if she shows up and she's like, "Oh, I don't need to use my wires for my swords anymore. No strings on me."
There's really only 2 ways it can go, because she's definitely getting hacked. Either she gets hacked and someone's forced to kill her, or she gets hacked but she manages to break the hacking, and then, I don't know, she joins the team. I do feel like there's a reasonable chance she can't join the team and stay the maiden, because they can't just let a maiden go with them, because the maidens are so powerful.
Oh yeah, I feel like she'll be staying behind in Atlas in any case.
Yeah. What if there's a decent chance that Atlas falls, but they manage to redirect it so it doesn't destroy Mantle? So Mantle ends up being the capital again.
Oh, our city now. All right, you ready to end this shit with a reading from the book?
Oh God! Just please don't read out an action sequence again. I can't take it. I'm too tired.
Well, this is kind of an action sequence, but it's more focused on goop. So this is one of the funny things. So Vacuo just has, like, fantasy monsters, which it's really funny to me, the idea that, like, hunters, like, it's all about fighting Grim. They only fight Grim. But also sometimes in this world, there's just other giant fantasy monsters that we don't feel like we even need to bother bringing up. So they're fighting giant mole crabs. And the crab keened and thrashed, but Yatsu held on to his sword and stayed on top of it. He plunged the blade in deeper. Clear liquid gushed from the wound and drenched him. Ew, Velvet thought. The crab's death throes sent sand flying everywhere, including right into Velvet's eyes and, of course, her open mouth. She coughed and rubbed at her singing eyes until she could see again. And then, a bit later, the bullet started the job and the spinning blades finished it, spewing briny fluid and guts everywhere. Everywhere in italics. The crab's shriek set Velvet's teeth on edge. It fell backwards, already dead by the time it hit the ground. Velvet felt the body's tremor still as she climbed out of the hot, gory mess she had made of its belly, trying not to gag on the awful stench.
That's so someone's fetish. Ugh. Getting it in her mouth and we're drenched in it, and fuck off.
Sticky, gory mess.
Can you keep it on DeviantArt, please?
They want to save the meat from the crabs, and you know how they preserve it to take it into town?
Well, they're in the desert country, so I guess they pack it in sand, huh?
Yeah, they're gonna pack it in sand. Sand and salt are the same thing.
Fuck this book. Fuck it so much.
It's a really good book. There's so much. I have too many tags. We'll never get through them all. It's all I want to think or talk about.
I said this before the podcast, but I love how like you're tagging and highlighting sections of this book like you're reading it for academic study. But it's just a bad RWBY book.
Yeah, for a mental image for you guys, I got those little post-it notes that like are little taggies for the book, and they're all sticking out, and they're at different colors. There's one color for weird straight man writing gay moments with Coco moments. There's one color just for general funny things, and there's another color for uncomfortable racism stuff with Faunus stuff regarding Velvet, because it's pretty rough.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I gotta hold off for next time. I gotta be strong.
Yeah, you got that to look forward to, everyone.
Yeah!
More gross, horny lesbian stuff written by a dude and weird racism metaphors.
Hey, by the way, just indicator of how deep we are, of how much of a problem we have. This episode was 15 minutes, by the way. I hope you enjoyed our hour and a half long podcast about it.
6 minutes for every one. God, we have a problem. All right, we'll see you guys next week.
All right, thank you for joining us.
See you.